I've sung the praises of Made In Cookware for a while now. I own many pieces myself. Now Made In has changed nonstick cookware for good with their ceramic-clad pans. They're premium stainless pans with next-gen ceramic coating free of harmful materials. Beautiful, even cooking, and easy to clean. It's even oven safe up to 550 degrees. How do I know how great they are? I added one to my kitchen. Don't need a nonstick pan? Made In has pots, cutlery, bakeware, glassware, and everything you need. Take your home cooking to the next level by upgrading your cookware by going to unitedwedrink.com/madein, MADEIN. Find out why pros trust Made In. Go to unitedwedrink.com/madein and upgrade your kitchen and cooking today. The opinions and statements in this podcast do not represent those of the host's employers, co-workers, family, or imaginary friends. Now enjoy the show.
Happy hour, more like amateur hour. Welcome to United We Drink.
Hello and welcome to another episode of United We Drink. As always, I am Tim Johnson, joined by Kevin Abbott. Kevin, how are we doing this evening?
I am just lovely.
What are you drinking this evening? I see you sipping on a libation of sorts.
I actually have two things here, Tim. I like that we're getting right into this because a lot of times we like jibber jabber around something and like 15 minutes in we get to what we're drinking in the drinking podcast. No, diving in. I have a very nice Irish whiskey, and I'm also drinking the Rad Little Thing by Sierra Nevada, which I'm enjoying. I will say that a West Coast style hazy IPA. I was imagining something slightly different than this. I don't know what it is, but I was imagining something slightly different. Maybe a little more bitterness, but then that wouldn't be hazy. I don't know. It's very good, but it's not what I was hoping for in some way, shape, or form. If that makes any sense.
No, I think that's fine. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of the hazy IPA style. I've gotten over my grievances with it, but I still think just in general it is a little too sweet for my liking. I much prefer something with a little bit more bitterness to it, certainly. But I was drinking some Foggy Geezer last night, and it was I hitting the spot pretty darn well.
I'm sorry, but when you said I had gotten over my grievances, I think we need to make up a something for our social media of you yelling at like a bunch of hazy IPA cans, and you're just saying, "I've got a lot of problems with the people here in this room."
Yeah,
I think that would be.
I lost my train of thought.
Wait! There's someone here, and they're raising their hand to speak.
Yeah, I guess I did want to go ahead. Kind of why I jumped right into it. Is that I'm really excited to talk to our very special guest. You might know him as the co-host of United We Drink, a podcast all about beverage and beer and libations. You might also know him from his Blue Sky and Instagram handles of Mike Loves Beer, as well as his 3-episode arc on Perfect Strangers back in the early 90s. I want to go ahead and welcome to the podcast for the first time ever, Mr. Mike Jurewicz. Mike, welcome to United We Drink.
Thank you. Don't be ridiculous. Yeah, the little-known Perfect Strangers story arc where Balky morphed into a very dull American person, and that American person was like 9 years old or 8 years old. I don't remember how old I was at that time. I got my SAG card for that.
I refuse to sit here and let you call a 9-year-old you boring or dull. That's mean.
Yeah,
you at 40s. No, you in your 40s, boring as hell. But you as a 9-year-old, I bet you were pretty interesting before the weight of the world crushed your spirit.
That is true. The 30-something years since then has definitely done a toll on everything. I do want to say, Tim, solid C minus on the intro. You were like an 8-year-old reciting something in front of a crowd, like just trying to get it over with as quick as fucking possible and get off the stage.
I think
Has this turned into a roast?
Yeah.
Mike's roasting his 9-year-old self. He's roasting Tim for his intro. Come on, Mike, what you got for me?
Detroit.
I
got nothing. That's good.
Yeah. I have not seen a dais this ugly. No. I also would like to point out that I have one job with this podcast, and I'm not doing it because I was so nervous about hosting that I wasn't really nervous. I just hadn't given it a whole lot of thought.
I think people are also very confused about why you did the open and why you said that Mike was the co-host of United We Drink, and it was for his first time on the show. At some point, we might want to clue them into what we're doing here.
Yes, that is a good point.
This is another dimension. We are now in the MCU. This is a multiverse episode, so you're going to have to get caught up on a lot of stuff, including She-Hulk, including Echo, and all of the what ifs.
Don't you dare put She-Hulk and Echo in the same breath. She-Hulk was good.
I never watched Echo, so I don't know.
Echo was not good, and also Agatha All Along was garbage. So there's a lot of bad stuff out there, but She-Hulk was actually good.
Now that side rant is over, the reason that we did start this off a little bit different is we wanted to take a time to get to know Mike Jurewicz. Kevin was previously a guest on this podcast before he joined. I am part of the illustrious Two Timers Club as a guest of this podcast before I joined. But we've never had Mike on as a guest of this podcast, mostly just because he's been the one consistent voice throughout the entire history of this podcast. But we wanted to get to know Mike a little bit more. We know him, we love him, but we have not sat down and talked about his journey in beverage in one kind of sitting. So, yeah.
And I want to get into that, but I just had the thought as you were saying all of that, and I never really, laid all that out in my brain. But Mike has gone through a lot of co-hosts, right? And I think what the rule is, or what I'm learned from that, is that 20, 30 years from now, Mike will still be doing this show. You and I will be gone, Tim, just gone.
Easily.
I mean,
easily.
I mean, I've been doing it for quite a while, so I've got like 6 months left tops. You probably have 2 or 3 more years, but he's going to slough us off, right? Like dead skin cells, and move on to the next person's to co-host the show and do it forever. I think it's something that is definitely going to happen in the future. Don't you agree, Mike?
Yeah, I am. I can't think of who a singer off the top of my head is who has just kept the band alive all by themselves and just kept on replacing everyone else. But I'm just going to say I'm the Vince Neil of this. Not that is true with anything else I said, but yeah, I'll just keep this band going as long as I can. I have considerably less cocaine that has gone into my body than him. Zero. But yeah, I'll just keep on keeping on and replace you with younger other people. I wouldn't say better looking, but younger people.
It's the beer industry. There's no one that's good looking.
There's not going to be any young people.
I just imagine the second I said that, Mike closed a notebook that's on his desk that says possible replacements. He's like, how do they know my plan? I'm sorry, Tim. I stepped on what you were saying.
No. All I was gonna say is unlike Vince Neil, he is not a rock star, but like Vince Neil, he does have an ongoing feud with Axl Rose. So I think
fuck that guy.
This is something I did not know about you. Mike, let's talk about your life. Why do you have a feud with Axl Rose?
I mean, why shouldn't I? Like, look at the guy. Just look at him. Huh? Ever since Use Your Illusions 2 came out, I've been really pissed at him that he just pretty much split up an album and tried to get a whole bunch of extra money off of us instead of releasing it all together. So yeah, it was that.
He also put out that track My World, which was like him rapping over like some rock beat, which was just one of the worst things that's ever been put on any audio medium of all time.
I've never heard that, but I will agree.
Oh no, it is. I don't like, Super Bowl was recent, and Kendrick put on a hell of a performance. And I am a fan of hip hop, but I know that I should not rap. And along with Madonna and Blondie, I would say that Axl Rose is someone who probably should have put on their list they shouldn't rap.
I didn't know Anna Kendrick was a rapper, but I'm sure it was fantastic.
So, Kevin obviously cares. Mike, let's start off. What are you drinking tonight? Are you January is over.
January is over. And I am back on the horse or off the wagon or off the horse before the wagon. I don't know.
Your horse is off the wagon.
There we go. I'm pulling the wagon now. I'm having Cosmic Little Thing from Sierra Nevada, their hazy double IPA. This is from their new IPA variety pack that I got at Costco, or my wife got at Costco. She very bravely went to that place on Super Bowl Sunday, and I think she's still recovering from that. And then I have after that a new IPA from a little brewery in Boynton Beach called Copper Point. It's Everflow IPA. A new beer that we just released in the last month.
I'd like to try that.
Did you say Everflow?
Yes.
Everflow. So it's like if someone was writing even flow and their N just didn't fully hit the bottom line on the.
Well, I guess you could say that.
It's not ever clear.
It's in lowercase,
it's not even flow. Yeah. It's Everflow.
To rub like butterflies. Yeah.
For a second, I was like, "That's not that song." I'm like, "Yes, it is. Yes, it is."
It is. Yeah, it was mumbling, so it was that song.
Yeah.
So there's a theme here, some Sierra Nevada beer, and I want to get into what makes Mike Jurewicz tick. Like, who is this man who we have been listening to? Not we. I don't listen to this show. Why would I do that? I do this show. But who is this man who has been giving us these insights over the years? And I know a lot about you, Mike, because we have been friends for a pretty long time. I've seen you. I knew you when you did not make your living in this industry, in the craft beer business. And what's that?
Still don't make a living in this industry.
Well, which is a good point, and that's a whole different show that we should go into sometime soon. But that isn't like we met, you and I, at Coffee District. I believe the first time we met, and we were just craft beer enthusiasts, budding craft beer enthusiasts, really, and kind of struck up a friendship and stuff like that. But one of the first questions I want to ask is: you got into the industry working at Due South Brewing, right? I can't remember if we were naming them or not naming them. I don't care. At Due South Brewing, which no longer exists, that is defunct, and I can't remember. Did you start working at Due South strictly in operations, or did you start actually doing stuff in the brewery, like cellar work and stuff first?
A little bit of both. I was washing kegs, filling kegs, and as well as working on our website social media was still kind of early-ish at that time. We were on Facebook. Instagram really wasn't a thing yet at that point. Twitter we were on at that point.
And this was 1934, right?
Exactly.
Okay,
We were just coming out of the Depression, I think.
I like that reach. I don't care if it's true or not. It works.
Back in my day. But I was starting to deal with our distributors a little bit. But yeah, I was like, and bartending.
That's right. You were bartending quite. I mean, was it you at one point you were just working like Saturdays, but did you start out bartending like more?
No,
I was
just bartending on Saturdays and working in the brewery Tuesday through Friday, and like doing like it was essentially full time. But because we didn't work on Mondays very early on there, probably for like the first year or two, we never worked on Mondays.
When I worked there, that was still the the
okay
rule. Yeah,
and that was how I don't remember when you came into the fold.
and that's not important. Mike, how did you get connected with Due South?
I met Mike at Coffee District. I where so many budding young craft beer professionals met one another. Really, I think there wasn't very many places to have good beer back then. Like, I guess I came into it right at the tail end when Case and Keg World was kind of closing in Boca. They were one of like the OG places, but I mean, Coffee District in Del Rey, Funky Buddha Lounge in Boca were like the two places that I went to the most, with a smattering of like Fat Cats down in Lauderdale, and every once in a while like Abraxas down in Miami when you're feeling really spicy and dumb. But Coffee District.
So did you just meet Mike there and just like get talking to him and like, yeah, I'm interested in getting into the business, and he was like, yeah, I could use a hand. Is that how it worked out?
I mean, it was mostly like just hanging out on like we had the Monday bottle shares. That was where I met you, and you were early on doing that. You were doing homebrew classes, like seminars, sort of things on Mondays as well. You were showing people how to homebrew while doing bottle shares. And it was just me. Yeah, I met him at one of those, and just we became acquaintances and talked when he was there. Like, even if it was a Friday or a Saturday and we both happened to come across each other there, just chatting it up until they got to the point where they were ready to open. And I started off just with a bartending shift on Saturdays for the first month that they were open, and then eventually was like, hey, can you give me something? Like, I want to be in this industry. Like, what can you do to make me quit my tech job?
Yeah, so let's go ahead and talk about your pre-brewing career, right? Because obviously, I think all of us had a path that wasn't, none of us grew up and said, as an 8-year-old, I'm going to be a brewer when I grow up. Aside from the summer between 3rd and 4th grade, where my dad took me to the Coors Brewery in Golden, Colorado for a tour.
Just kids from Milwaukee that love baseball. That's the only people that really wanted to be a brewer when they grew up.
I know.
Tim wanted to do lot selections for hops back then.
It is. I remember early on in 4th grade, we had to make a book of what did you do over your summer, and I was drawing copper.
You were stealing copper out of people's houses.
That too. No, I was drawing copper kettles for my parents took me to a brewery over the summer. I was like, okay, yeah, this is setting a very good tone. So I don't have it anymore. I wish I still had that. Because it would be kind of funny to see how 9-year-old me did eventually become a brewer, but
Evan's dad, reach out to Tim's parents and see if that picture exists. I assume you guys know each other.
At this point, it's a given. It's somewhere. It's in an attic somewhere in a box. It's been taped over
Or a
37
basement.
different times.
well, so okay, so yes, let's get into this. You were born. Were you born in Philly?
Were you born in general?
Were you born? Yeah.
Believe it or not, I was.
Oh, wow. This is the kind of insight you only get on the United We Drink podcast.
Against all odds, I was. I was born in Meadowbrook, PA, which is a suburb just outside of Philly.
Gotcha. Okay.
And also, I'm sorry, guys, but you cannot say I was born and then not reference the fact that in our text chain earlier today, you used the scene from The Jerk where Steve Martin says, I was born a small black child. I'm sorry, that was just
that's what I was
thinking back to.
I was baiting him into it, but he didn't take the bait.
I'm gonna stay this color? Sorry. It's great. It's a great movie.
I just don't know how many people would have gotten that reference on here, but I knew that you guys in a text chain would.
At the end of the day, people who are listening to this, that don't get it, I'm sorry, but the right people will get that reference because The Jerk is just classic.
Yeah,
we can go back onto the podcast now.
Oh yeah. No, I had a whole other thing I was gonna go off, and then I have to remember. Oh yeah, shit, people are listening.
You have to be the one that keeps things on track now. Now you get a little glimpse into what it's like to be me.
Yeah, I get it, and it is horrifying. So anyway, yes, let's go ahead and get right back on track. Born, raised, Philadelphia area. I very begrudgingly cheered on your Eagles. Eric Hills and I both. So Eric came over to my house.
By the way, America, you're welcome.
Yeah, friend of the pod, Eric came over on Sunday to watch the Super Bowl with me, and we both talked about how it's not that we like the Eagles, but Mike's an Eagles fan, and we're tired of the Chiefs, so we're gonna go ahead and root for Philly.
I do like saying "Go Birds." I think that's fun to say.
One of my boys loves saying it too.
Go Birds.
Yeah, he'll just be walking around in a parking lot going, "Go Birds, go Birds."
Which is also good if you're walking around a forest and you're trying to encourage the birds to mate or do whatever birds do. There's multiple uses.
Do you guys have a lot of pigeons that are invading, and he's just trying to get them away? Is that what's going on? Yeah.
Well, that's a different usage of that. You can be encouraging birds, you can be encouraging the Eagles, or you could be telling birds to go away. That's a very effective phrase, and I think we should be using it in our lexicon more often.
It actually has a whole lot more uses than even that. It can just mean hello. It can mean yes. It's kind of the new John in Philadelphia. Is you just can say "Go Birds" whenever. I see anyone wearing Philly gear anywhere, and it's just like do the little head nod and go Birds, and they're like, yeah, go Birds, and just pass by each other.
Aloha of Philly.
Yeah,
nice.
With a lot more letters.
Okay, so born, raised in Philly.
Raised is even kind of like I moved from there when I was 14, so it's like partially raised.
So if you get the same kind of questions that I get as being born in Detroit, not really raised in Detroit, but born in Detroit, and raised in the Metro Detroit area, how intimately did you know the members of Boyz II Men? Were they good friends of yours? Were they, acquaintances? Did you see them at local talent shows? And Belle Biv DeVoe? Discuss.
Well, I was going to go to the same high school as them, but realized that they've already graduated, so it wasn't gonna happen. Also,
So
my
that was the
parents were
end of
like,
the road on that
"We're
one.
moving to Florida." Um, what was that, Tim?
I said that was the end of the road for that.
Some might say. Some might say.
There may not be one more episode of this podcast that is more for us than for anybody else listening to it than this one right now. I just
it's like United We Masturbate. This is like
it's
literally
just entitle this self-indulgence, and it will be the most appropriate episode title of all time.
Like, I still think that Tim is roundabout trying to get to asking me what I did for a living before getting into beer, but for some reason wanted to go all the way back to.
But Mike, as a professional, jump in with that. Just go there. Just go.
No, because I wanted to get to. You're not so you like it's no secret to the listeners of the pod that you guys are in Florida. I wanted to know what your journey was growing up to get to Florida, and so I did want to know what you did before you got into beer, but I think
my journey getting to Florida was doing what a 13 and 14-year-old does, and then having your parents go, we're moving to Florida in the summer between 8th and 9th grade, so you're going to start high school in a brand new place. That was the journey. And to be honest, like, I held a fucking grudge on that for a long ass time. I probably only dropped that in my 30s. But yeah, I hated high school, and I had a friend group that were fucking stupid and shitty, and they're just fucking assholes to me. Like, they're that fucking type of people who try to, like, you think that they're your friends because they include you in some things, but they do shitty things behind your back and is fucking dumb. I went to like you guys,
humans, right? Like human people that are just bad because they're humans. Okay.
Yeah, we don't do shitty things behind your back, Mike. We do them right in front of you.
That's better than those fucking assholes. But I went
not that you're still bitter.
No,
you are not at all. That's good.
I'm not writing diss tracks. But
I don't know what it is about, like, kids whose parents made
they not like us.
Like my nice. My ex-wife's parents moved to Florida when she was like a freshman or whatever, and she stayed behind for like a year, lived with a friend because she didn't want to move down there. And then she's like, "I'll move down there if you buy me a horse," and they bought her a horse. So you didn't extort your parents, which was probably a bad move on your part, but it did also set her up to always get her way, which is why she's my ex-wife. But go ahead.
I will move to Florida if you buy me a horse. A tale as old as time. That old chestnut comes up again. Everyone can relate to that, right? I'll move to Florida if you buy me a horse. Everyone's experienced that. This is a relatable show.
By the way, Tim, can I see that rocks glass?
What's that?
Oh, can I see the design on the rocks glass?
I don't know if you can.
It looks a lot like one that I have.
Oh, it's trees.
Oh, okay. It's pine trees.
Yeah.
I have a Halloween set that has like black cats and all spooky stuff right around the bottom, just like that. That I really like.
No, a previous partner of mine knows that I like the outdoors. Obviously, she knew that because we were partners, and so she's always gotten me things like, pine tree rocks glasses or pine tree socks that say "I fucking love it out here" or things like that. So yeah.
Mike, what were you doing before you got into the beer industry?
I was working in web hosting. for between
And what does that mean?
Every website in the world that you go to, they are on servers that are hosted by a company.
And like
And
hosted means like provide like hors d'oeuvres and drinks.
Yes. And SQL databases, MySQL databases. But it was, and that was just an industry that I just fucking fell into as well because I was just a waiter. And then I got fired from my last waiting job. And I quote from the manager, because I said I'm not folding any fucking silverware. I did say that, but as a joke, and then folded the fucking silverware. But long story short, the owner of that place fucking hated me. But the bassist for my band worked at a web hosting company and was like, I could get you a job here. You know a little bit about HTML. I did a little bit. So he got me a job there doing tech support, and something I probably shouldn't have been doing, but I've kind of figured stuff out. And then, yeah, for between two companies for about 10 years, worked in that, and I was kind of good at it, and I made decent money. But did I really want to do that the rest of my life? Not really. And
you
by
wanted,
that time,
what you wanted to do was go work for some other kind of company and make mediocre money.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So then the brain injury happened.
Yeah, so much so that I don't remember it. Like I was into music. Like I mentioned, a bassist getting me a job, and I at one point thought that was going to be my fucking life, but it wasn't. And
Yeah, I mean, the dream train has gone off the tracks. If you're looking to a bassist for advice, I think that's already probably the first problem.
I am so happy that my brother-in-law Brad Grace is not listening to this because he's a bassist and he would be offended. he would never listen to this because why would he? He's in the industry and would not listen to this podcast. Mike, I think that you were. And this is my bias, probably from one, knowing you, and two, having little to no understanding of internet culture. But you started doing your blog and your video reviews of beer, michaelisbeer.com. Around the time that I met you, right? I mean, was that in the same ballpark? Because I remember watching videos of I remember going to your blog. There was no YouTube at the time, or if there was, I was going to your blog to find the videos and watch you reviewing beers. And you would sit down on your couch, you'd video yourself, put them up, you had a microphone, and you would talk about beers that you were reviewing. I thought you were ahead of the curve on a lot of those things. There are people now that are like making a living off of doing that kind of stuff. And you were doing it kind of early on.
I had to look up the Whois data on my domain name to see when I registered it. 2008, I started blogging about beer, and I didn't do a whole lot of the video stuff. I think I did less than 10 of those because the quality was fucking awful. I couldn't afford a decent enough camera, and webcams were awful, and so I didn't do a whole lot of those. But I was writing about beers and reviewing them on my site, and yeah, I do think that I was maybe an early adopter to that. But and yeah, I met some people through doing that, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't get some perks here and there for it. But not there were some people. That's the thing, is I never asked for anything, and that was probably dumb of me. But I had people give me like free admittance to like beer fests or beer dinners and events like that, I had fucking what was the name of the? I think it was a Sun Sentinel. Set me up on a beer dinner. They got me free admission to a beer dinner to write a piece about it. It wasn't in the Sun Sentinel, so I don't even know why. So I'm probably really confused, but I know someone gave me free admittance to a beer dinner to write about it. But I always prided myself on that. I didn't go out and ask people for free shit, and beer blogging was becoming more popular, and there were a lot of fucking people out there just fucking begging for shit, and it bugged the living hell out of me. So much so that the original iteration of this show, we did an entire episode making fun of that in character, and it's probably someone probably has that MP3 downloaded somewhere, and please delete it. But
I mean, 2008 is pretty early on in kind of the second wave of craft beer. And is it the second? I like to think of it as the second.
I mean, I would call it the first. I mean, I know that there were some big-ish breweries by that time, but I don't think that it was really getting popular until that time.
It probably depends. It probably depends where you were in the country at that time.
That's true.
Because
very true.
In Florida, it was like the precipice. I mean, it was the first wave, but in California, it might have been the second wave.
Yeah,
right?
I was gonna say for us in Minnesota, we didn't necessarily have a big boom here, but we had, we obviously had.
I mean, Stone was already a decade old by the time I had heard of them.
Yeah. So we'd gotten a lot of that. Obviously, to me, the first wave is Sierra Nevada is really kind of that, that first wave, or New Belgium, Fat Tire becoming a thing is kind of that first wave. That's what I kind of consider that first wave, and that second wave, I think more starts around 2010, 2012, maybe. But if you're doing it at 2008, yeah, you're definitely on the forefront of whether or not it's first or second wave. You're on the forefront of a new craze, a new fad. So
it's kind of funny that my blog, I guess its SEO has been decent enough over the years that I still get a decent amount of traffic for people coming to reviews of beers that are at this time over 10 years old. And some of these beers probably don't even exist anymore. And
I'm sure a lot of them don't, because so many breweries have retired the kind of beers that you would have reviewed at that time. I mean, look at Rogue and Dogfish Head, which are two major breweries that were doing tons of esoteric, crazy beers at the time, and they're not even their portfolios anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was writing about beer. Did a podcast. It was Phil and I initially, in the very first run of it. Not when we revived this back in 2020 or 2019.
I was gonna say it was prior to the pandemic when you.
Yeah. So it was just Phil and I.
How did you know Phil?
I met Phil at actually no, I met Phil online first before Coffee District. He and a mutual friend of ours now, but a friend of his, were doing a beer blog, and they were very different from me. They were very bro and writing silly, stupid reviews about beers. But they were local, and
wait. Are you telling me that Dos Beerigos was doing silly stuff?
It was a little bro-like.
Do tell.
I shouldn't speak. It wasn't my blog. Phil should be here to defend himself.
I was gonna say I love Phil.
There's nothing to defend. It's just what happened.
He's a smart, funny, very handsome man that I'm already jealous of in a million different ways. But yeah, slightly broy and silly, I feel is
That's on brand. I think
You're
that's
gonna say
what
it's
I
pretty
think
much-
that's what Tim is saying. It's on brand.
But yeah, he was writing stuff, and he was mostly hanging. There was this a shorter-lived beer bar in Boca called the Lodge that he would frequent, and I went there a few times. Nice enough place. But then like he started hanging out at Coffee District as well. I think the first time I ever hung out with him like in person was at one of the Jupiter beer festivals, and he used to wear a fucking glove, drinking glove.
His drinking glove, yeah.
Yeah, fingers cut out, a leather glove like a weightlifter would. And
As one does
As
when
one
they're
does, yeah.
drinking at a
Yes.
festival. They have a drinking glove. That's just
I
what you
can't
do.
remember what his whole explanation for it used to be. He had a shtick for that, but neither here nor there or anywhere. But yeah, I met him there, and we collaborated on our blogs a bit, and then were like, hey, let's do a podcast. Podcasts are like starting to become a thing. So we got a couple microphones, and he got a mixer that is still in my closet. He eventually gave it to me when he left the show, and I still have that. Yeah, then we did that for a few years. Joel came in like when Phil left, like when Phil became employed in the industry with Cigar City the first time. He didn't have time for it, so Joel took over that spot, and we did that for a few years until into working at the first brewery, and we just didn't have the time to do that anymore, so we stopped. I think it was probably somewhere around 2015 or so, and then thankfully erased that from the annals of time, and then started back up in 2019. And here we are.
Yeah, and here
Still going.
And here we are. The ever rotating cavalcade of co-hosts of United
There's only been 5 in the history of the show, and 3 of them are on here.
So far is the important aspect of that.
As we've discussed, Kevin will be moving on in about 6 months.
I'll be pushed out, rightfully so.
That's a solid year left in me. So,
well, I think it's interesting. You mentioned the Lodge, and I'm sorry, Tim, that this is like very like Florida centric, but that was another like craft beer bar that was around the time that Coffee District was running. I mean, Coffee District is still open, but around the time that Funky Buddha was still a craft beer bar. Maybe around the time we became a brewery, but maybe a little bit before that, a lot of people got into craft beer, especially like the FAU crowd, which was like the college crowd, which Phil was a part of. Tom Barris, who is going to be a guest of ours on an episode coming up here very soon. That's where they got introduced to craft beer at the Lodge. And I remember going there a couple times here or there, and it's still a working restaurant now. And it's funny to walk into that place and go, "Oh yeah,
what is it called now?"
I forget the name of the place. I've been there somewhat recently, but like I remember like going in and
they carry you
wood paneling on the walls, and
the wood paneling was
very claustrophobic. Actually, like you walked in there and you thought you were like in a cattle
one
car.
Window.
And you were in a cattle car going to your death. That was my interpretation. But then you got, a Lagunitas beer and you felt good about yourself. So that was a time.
I had my first ever Magic Hat number 9 there. I remember when that was a big deal when Magic Hat first came down to Florida. I don't even know if that brand exists anymore.
I don't know if it does either. And I got to be honest, that wasn't even that great of a beer.
No, but it was one of the ones that.
Yeah.
Even when it's good, it wasn't that good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
I was like, I remember having it and being like, oh, it's kind of apricot-y, and like I get why people like it, but it's not my thing.
What? So total segue. But what was your guys' first? What do you think? If you want to say craft beer, what do you think was your first introduction to craft beer?
I mean, I know absolutely what that is. The first thing that I would consider craft that I ever had was Sam Smith Oatmeal Stout. I had it at Isaac Newton's, a restaurant and bar in Newtown, PA. My cousin took me there. I was up visiting some family, and he was like, "Yo, you need to come with me to this place." They got like I was like I wanted to be more adventurous about beer, but I didn't really know shit about it. And he's like, "You got to come to me with this place. There's like a Bible of beer." And it was like a fucking 3-ring binder with a huge menu of bottles and draft. And I had no idea what the fuck to do. And he's like, "Do you like Guinness?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "All right, you're going to get this." And I mean, Sam Smith Oatmeal Stout is nothing like Guinness, but it was a great choice because I was like, damn, this is so smooth and delicious. And it just opened up my eye. I was like, okay, I'm going to go home and try to find this. I don't know where. Total Wine opened up in Boynton Beach probably a couple months after that. And they had it there and so many other beers. And I was like, okay, this is going down now. I'm just going to start finding shit. But Sam Smith Oatmeal Stout 100% is the first craft beer, I guess you could say, that I had, and yeah, I will remember that forever.
That's a good answer, honestly. That's a good entry point, I think.
I'm going to give you 2 answers because I'm very wordy when I answer any questions. I had a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale when I was still probably like 19 or 20 when I was working at the Olive Garden, because we took on a couple craft beers at one of the new restaurants that we opened up. But I didn't know what craft beer was. So I just thought it was a beer that was made by anybody. It didn't register as a craft beer to me. So it was the first craft beer I ever had. But the first craft beer I recognize as something different from Budweiser, because I just thought like Sierra Nevada was another Budweiser. It was just another company making beer. When I understood that craft beer was a thing, I believe my first one was Nostradamus. I think, because I think it was the first beer I had at Coffee District when I went there after one of my shifts at Cafe La Rosa in downtown Delray Beach, and just stumbled upon this place and said, "Give me something," basically. And I had a Nostradamus, and it kind of opened up my whole world. I mean, I was like 22, 23 at the time. So it was years after I had a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale for the first time. And I believe that was my first one. But it could have been a Saxo. It could have been something else in that range. But that I believe was the first time I realized I was drinking a craft beer.
I had to look this beer up because I was like, I know this beer name, but I don't remember what it looks like. And now that I see a picture of that Cork and Cage 750, I'm like, yes.
Oh yeah, no, I did the exact same thing.
Like, and that was a thing about Coffee District too, is like huge craft beer, American craft beer, but Belgian like stuff too. Like, it's funny about that is many years after like having been in the industry, I was on a little bit of a lull between jobs down here, and I was doing some freelance writing for a local magazine, the Atlantic Current, still exists. Very good people over there. Shout out to Dustin. He doesn't listen to this. But I had to, my assignment was to interview a new bar that had opened up and was very craft centric. So I set up a time to go interview the owner of the place, and it was in Delray and Delray Beach, where Coffee District is, and he's talking very, very much as if he is doing something different in the area, and like that he almost is the first to be doing craft beer. And I was like, Coffee District right down the road has been doing this since like the 2000s, like the aughts. And he was like, almost as if he was shocked that I knew information and was calling him out. And he was like, yeah. He's been doing that for a while, but he really specializes in Belgium beer. And I was like, I heard that and I was like, did he just say that by accident? Like Belgium beer? And like, yeah, he carries a good bit of American beer, but he's way more of a Belgium beer person. I was like, he just said it again. And I couldn't stop thinking about how he is proclaiming himself to be this big craft beer person, but just gets the nomenclature of people from a country wrong. That place does not exist anymore, so I'm not even going to mention it. But Coffee District still does, selling American and Belgium beer. So good for Chung.
I mean, without that place, and I know this is very centric to South Florida and a specific county in South Florida, but without that place, a lot of people would not have gotten into craft beer. I mean, it really is a jumping off point for so many of us who, if we had not stumbled in there, we would not be in this industry.
Like this is literally a coffee shop that opens at 7 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m., serving coffee. They have 20-something taps of beer. I don't know how many bottles they still have, but they used to have a huge bottle selection, a lot of Belgian stuff. Like, Chung...
Everything craft that was available in South Florida, whether it was Belgian or not, if you were selling beer and it was available, he picked it up. And
if you wanted to do a big type of event in this county, like to tap takeover type of stuff, you went to Coffee District. You were like, hey, I want to do something with you, because that was where people went. If a distributor had one keg of one specialty thing, like, chances are he was going to get it, because he always bought from them and always carried that brewery's stuff on the reg. We joked that he was Dogfish Head, South Florida, before Dogfish Head, South Florida was actually a thing, because he carried so many of Dogfish Head's cores, their ancient ales, their weird, wacky stuff, the 750s of big beers. Like, he'd had like 2 Dogfish Head tap takeovers a year, would have 120, have worldwide stout, like on tap, like
75-minute. I mean, just like anything that was like rare and special. Well, if you guys have ever wondered why Mike and I are friends and why he indulges me and puts me on his podcast, it's because we met at that place and he has a soft spot for me. And that's really all it is.
I truly thought Kevin hated me for like a year after I met him.
Well, first of all, I probably did, because I hated everybody, because that was my MO at the time. I was reading a lot of Charles Bukowski. But we really developed so much of our understanding of the industry, and really that was a jumping off point of where a lot of us came from down here. Was from that place. I mean, it really deserves almost like a cultural landmark of craft beer in South Florida, of this one spot that influenced so many people. And it's a shame that I want to go back. I want to go tonight. I want to go in there and have a beer. I'm not going to, but I want to.
We should go and have a beer there sometime.
This brings up a question that I have, and I think it's for both of you. And I think also, side note, we need to talk about in the future episode I don't want to say the death, but the decline of craft beer centric places.
Of the beer bar, yeah.
But No, no. What were you gonna say?
I was
This is
I
your
thought
last
you were
call. You don't have to
no
do
no
it uninterrupted, unopposed.
I thought you were going to say I think we have to talk about the death of the United We Drink podcast, which I thought that's where you were going, and I was trying to you know complete your sandwich. Go ahead.
Okay, no, no. So the question I have, because like, and Kevin, I want you to answer this too, but I want to get back to the rest of Mike's career, since ostensibly this is about interviewing Mike, when really it's just three idiots bullshitting. So for the Midwest, I think a lot of people came to craft beer through home brewing before they came through craft beer bars, stuff like that. It sounds like to me what you guys are saying is that you more got into craft beer through experiencing it, and then maybe got into home brewing or whatever. That's how you that was your pathway, and it feels like a slightly different thing. Is that an accurate assessment, or am I like how? Yeah, what was the journey into that?
That's fair for me.
I mean, Kevin, you were doing homebrew classes at Coffee District before you before you brewed a commercial batch of beer.
Yeah, but my first craft beer was at Coffee District, so
Well,
I
the
got
way
into it.
maybe I didn't hear the question properly. It almost seemed like, correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, on this. It sounded like you were
I
saying that
will.
we got into beer through experience in the beer industry before home brewing.
Well, no. I guess what I'm saying is what led you to craft beer, sort of a chicken and egg thing. Was it home brewing, then experiencing more like craft? Because like in
Oh,
the
okay,
mid,
I got you.
yeah. So in the Midwest, we didn't necessarily have a ton of craft beer centric bars. I think we had craft. I think craft beer centric bars came out of the popularity of homebrewing at the time, right? Like we are the home of rest in peace Midwest Brewing and uh, heavily declined Northern Brewer, right? Like both of those were Minnesota things. We were I think probably because we were the home of Summit, we became basically kind of a well, and BSG, I guess. We became a mecca for home brewing before we became a mecca for craft beer. But it sounds like you guys, it was the craft beer bar experience that made you want to homebrew.
Possibly
Mike, did you ever homebrew?
twice, and I hated it. Way
I
too much
remember.
work.
I remember, and this might be projecting or whatever, but I do remember we had a whole group of people that would sit outside a coffee district, and we'd do these homebrew classes, and uh, many of the people who loved craft beer and were so into it, and they were on like Rate Beer and Beer Advocate, like rating beers, had
Right.
no interest whatsoever. Mike had an interest. Mike would stand out and ask questions with a beer in hand. Maybe not like because he wanted to do it at home, but he was interested in what we were doing.
Sure.
And I remember like my first conversations with Mike were like, "Oh, why are you putting this in there?" Well, this is like caramel malt, and this is this, and this is this, and this is why we're doing this to make this IPA or whatever it was. By the way, putting caramel malt in an IPA, Ralph, who listens to this podcast, is going to hate me. I'm sorry, Ralph, but we put caramel malt in IPAs back then because it was olden times and it was simpler. But
one of my favorite IPAs of all time still has caramel malt. I'm gonna say it.
and Ralph will fight you on that, and he will try. But no,
I felt now.
Hey, Ralph. By the way, Ralph.
He, but no,
bring it.
but Mike,
You know,
Mike,
Minnesota, bring it.
Mike, but you were that's the thing, you were interested. I feel like you were very interested in the process, whether or not you wanted to do it or not. You really wanted to know things. And it was one of the first things probably in our entire history together where I was kind of struck by like, oh, this guy like wants to know stuff. And there were other people in our little circle that I was kind of struck like, oh, they don't want to know anything. they just kind of want to drink this stuff and be done with it. And I was
And that's
more
fine.
impressed with you. I was more impressed with your philosophy on that early on, even if you thought I hated you, which I probably did. Anyway,
No, so
Like I wanted to know as much as I could. And I think at that time I had not homebrewed, and I had not realized how much of a pain in the ass it is to do. And but there was something, even after I was done homebrewing, like I still wanted to keep on learning about brewing. And it's funny, like I would rather brew a production batch of beer than homebrew, because it's I feel like it's so
Everyone
much less
would.
work.
yeah.
But it really did help me in the industry, like, and that's still a thing. Like I have only actually brewed, like, on a brew deck type of thing, probably 5 times in my life. I don't want to do that. I learned very early on I didn't want to be a brewer. I liked working in the cellar. I liked working in production. I liked working in operations and marketing. I even like working behind the bar more than I do on the brew deck. But I wanted to know everything that I could about the industry. It is a funny story about the first brewery, and there was a point where I felt very disrespected at the brewery by the owner, and I had a conversation with him because what my title was not reflective of the type of work that I was doing, and I felt like I needed to learn more, and I needed to be involved more. But my title at the time was brewery operations manager. I worked hand in hand with our distributing partners on purchase orders for them. I gave our packaging people numbers that they needed to hit for filling those orders. I worked with our brewers on creating the scheduling for brewing the batches that we needed to brew. But at the same time, there was a lot of things technically that I didn't know in the brewery. And I was just kind of being treated like, oh, this is the guy who sits in the fucking office all day. And I told my boss, like, teach me about this, teach me about that. And he goes, because I had been to CBC a number of times, and I talked or been into seminars with other ops managers, and I was like, they know about this and they know about that. They're able to fill in doing X, Y, and Z if a guy is out sick. Like, I should know how to do these things. And his response was, well, if you know how to do all that, then you know how to do everything that I do. And my response was, so? Like yeah. Why is it a bad thing that I know stuff? Yeah. And like it was one of the first times that I really saw that there was like almost a fear of an employee usurping knowledge of an owner. And like, I don't really remember what time frame that was, but like I knew probably in my mind that was the beginning of the end for my time there. But it became so obvious in the years after that there are fragile egos in the industry who don't want their people to learn. They just want them to do. We had that issue there a number of times with people who weren't being taught properly by the owner on how to do things because they weren't being told what the consequences of not doing things right would be. And that's something that fucking Kevin was always great at doing when he came to work there. I know Joel would speak to this, is you always let us know that if you don't do this way, this is what will happen. And if that happens, here's how you can go about trying to fix that. You didn't think that it was overload to give us that information, which I feel like that was part of the thing that the boss is like, let me not overload this person with a whole bunch of stuff. Right on. And so what you you always wanted to give us what happens if you choose the red pill or the blue pill. Like it that type of information is important in a job that can kill you. And I've always appreciated that in you, and that was why I've always looked at you as like a good teacher for stuff in this industry, and I just tried to sponge off of you as much as I could.
Well, that is an extremely kind thing to say, and I really appreciate that. But I also want to point out that you said when you started that, fucking Kevin, in a kind of aggressive way.
Sorry.
This motherfucker with his fucking things that he says.
But you see, sometimes that can be with love, like because you're so worked up and you're so happy about it.
And you were a cast member of The Sopranos for about 3 seasons in the middle years, so I get that. But I do appreciate it. That's a very sweet thing to say, Mike. I love you with all my heart. But yeah, I mean that is that philosophy, and we've talked about this all throughout United We Drink. Talking about the industry is that like we don't need to know just what to do, but why we do it. And I hope that is something that all of us and in a cumulative, not just people on this show, but we have industry people that listen to this show on a regular basis. If you can disseminate this information with the why and not just the what, the world's going to be a better place. Like people feel better about things when they know why they're doing things rather than just what to do, like they're drones. And sometimes people will surprise you and they come up with new things and they go, well, that's not a good idea because of this. And you don't get defensive about it. You go, well, motherfucker, that is a better way to do it for this reason. And thank you for correcting me.
Yeah.
Everything froze, so I'm sure while I was gone, kept really brilliant and insightful, and I missed it. Because I should probably just not do those things.
You missed nothing. I said nothing.
But everything all at the same time.
Did that movie win an Oscar? I think that was a very popular movie.
Oh God, I was gonna
Nothing
make
but
that
everything
joke
all
too.
at Yeah.
Yeah. No, no. Kevin is
You made
literally
my critics top 10 list. Who the fuck am I?
Mike loves movies.com. That's another thing that he does on the side. You guys don't know all the stuff Mike does. He's a dynamo. He is rating and objectively looking at everything.
That's why no one calls me Mike Side Hustle Jurewicz.
Yeah. Literally jumped on the trend of craft beer before anyone did and found no way to capitalize on it. I'm just saying, maybe don't listen to Mike for side hustle advice.
And we're back to the roast portion of the show.
No,
Yeah. So when's Lisa Lampanelli coming up here to?
Yeah, right.
And then Jesselnick will pat the dirt down on top of my grave.
Yeah, and Nikki Glazer is up next. So one question I did want to ask you then. Okay, so how many different breweries have you worked for now, Mike? And how long have you been in the industry?
This year of some Lord 2025 will be my 13th year in the industry. I have worked for 5 breweries and wait. No, 4. Sorry. I've worked for 4 breweries, and everyone except for the one that I'm currently employed by are closed.
Oh boy, then Copperpoint better look out because you are a harbinger of doom.
a black widow, if you will.
Yeah. The first brewery, I worked at
terrible.
West Palm with Joel on 2 separate occasions. Once just being a bartender, and the other in the brewery. I worked at Moss Mill in PA for a year, a place that I really miss and loved. I loved all the work that I did there. And then, yeah, at Copper Point since November of 2019.
I was gonna say
So
the one you've been at the longest.
this is, yeah, at some point this year, I'm going to pass the amount of time that I spent at the first brewery.
Okay. You and I knew each other just based off of Twitter first, since I was not nearly as early an adopter as you, but we found each other fairly quickly somehow. Twitter. I don't.
Yeah, I remember. It's funny. We followed each other. We responded to each other here and there, but the first time that we ever really talked was when you were going to have Joel on your previous podcast, and Joel deactivated his Twitter account, and you had no way of getting in touch with him other than that. And I think I gave you his phone number so that you could text him because he had forgotten that he was supposed to be on it or something like that. Because you reached out to me and you were like, "Hey, do you know what happened to Joel? Is everything okay?" I was like, "Oh, he's on one of his tour breaks." I'm like, "He's supposed to be recording with us tonight, and I have no way of getting in contact with him." I was like, "Okay, let me find out if it's cool if I give you his phone number." And I was like, "All right, here's his phone number." He said it's cool.
Yeah, no, that's funny. You know what's funny about Joel is Joel and I actually physically met at GABF.
Yeah, you've told this story, and I still am not sure if that was one that I was at, but
No, I don't think you were there. But so he was working for Due South. He was pouring, and so I met him probably, I don't know, 2013 or something like that. GABF, somewhere around that time. He doesn't remember meeting me at all, and it's totally funny.
He doesn't like people.
he also doesn't remember
like,
a lot of meeting people right now either.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we had actually interacted a fair bit. I mean, the only reason that Mike and I know each other is because I interacted with Joel quite a bit, right? I mean, that's the only reason Kevin and I know each other is, and so
it's a trickle down effect.
It is. He's got a. I mean, that's the only way I know Phil as well. I almost said knew like he's dead. He's not dead. Is he?
He is not.
Who are we talking about? Phil Hartman? He's passed.
Wow. Hey, man, we came full circle on that. Yeah.
So that's a callback to something that you guys did not hear because that was not really recorded before we started the podcast. So you're welcome.
Yeah. No, that's good. God damn it.
So what you're saying is Joel is our Nexus being.
I was gonna say patient 0, but
no, Joel is a constant in all universes. He is the same person, and he's almost like a watcher. He just kind of sees things and is consistent and is there.
Joel is a constant, and he is constantly annoyed by life. So, and
he doesn't like this part of the podcast either. So it all makes sense.
Okay, you know, like I got a billion more questions to ask you, but we've been going long enough. And
should we have Mike on again? Should we have him on?
Yeah, Mike, you have been such a great guest. I would really appreciate it if you're up for it. If you'd come back on the pod, maybe even sometime when we have another guest, you can come on. You could kind of guest host.
I think I'm free.
And Mike, if you wouldn't mind hosting the podcast going forward, because the guy who did it this week wasn't very good at it.
Ooh, so
Jesus,
that's a big ask.
No business.
What can you what can you offer me? Are there benefits?
Oh no, there's nothing beneficial about this.
What about a decent like? Well, what about a decent salary? Is that a thing?
Did you hear no the first time? No to
no.
everything you have to say.
The best you can get is the adoration of Kevin's dad, who I now just pander to at this point.
All right, I'm in.
Okay, perfect. All right, well
and my adoration, which you don't give a shit about.
Wait a minute. Is there beer involved?
I don't well, you drink it.
Is there beer involved, and do I have to pay for it myself?
Yes, and yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm still in.
I haven't been drinking beer this entire episode. It's all been bourbon. So, no, let's go ahead and jump into last calls. This is the time of the podcast where we get to express our opinions uninterrupted, unopposed. What was the third thing, Kevin?
Unobjected.
Oh, unobjected. Whatever.
Why do you ask me? I don't know these things.
Well, because the conceit of this whole episode is that Mike doesn't know.
Oh no, I get it, but I still don't know. Go ahead.
Okay. Anyway, unobjected, uninterrupted, unopposed, where you get to just rant about anything. And I think I'm going to go ahead and kick this off with our guest, who has been a very lovely guest. Mike, what is on your mind?
I have two things to say. One very quickly is that if it is late at night and I am hungry and I come across an establishment by the name of Taco Bell, I am going to order a soft taco supreme, a cheesy rice and beans burrito, and a nacho Bel Grande. That, sir, is a callback. But really, the main thing that I wanted to talk about is that at the time of this recording, we are 3 nights removed from my Philadelphia Eagles winning the Super Bowl against some other people's Kansas City Chiefs. And I could grandstand here and talk shit till the cows come home about how we did America justice that day. And yes, I'm using the term we as if I am a part of the team, but I'm not going to do that. What I am going to do is talk about just what a fun day I had doing that. We hosted my parents at our house for the game. One of my boys was super excited for the game. I bought us all Eagles shirts to wear as a family. One of my kids was really excited about wearing his. The other one did not want to wear his at all. The same one who was excited has been shouting "Go Birds" at people and things for weeks now. And I made a tomato pie, which is a big Philly area thing. It's essentially like a thick pizza with great tomato sauce on top of it, no cheese. And I was honestly more nervous about making sure that came out well than the game itself. The tomato pie came out amazing. The outcome of that game was amazing. I had tons of soft pretzels. I had water ice, tasty cake, beer from Sly Fox and Victory, and got to watch my Eagles decimate the Chiefs for our second ever Super Bowl victory. And I love the fact that, and also hate the fact that in my boys' 3 short years of life, the Eagles have been to the Super Bowl twice, winning once. The Phillies have been to the World Series and have been a playoff threat all through their life. And they are starting off their lives as Philadelphia fans on a wrong foot, because there is going to be a comeback to earth period, and I'm going to try my best to soften that blow for them in the future. But It was a fun game as a Philly fan. I know a lot of other people would probably say it was not fun because it wasn't competitive, but whatever. Great halftime show with an amazing performance from Kendrick, and go Birds. Oh, pitchers and catchers have reported and looking forward to baseball.
Yeah, this is not opposed. I'm just saying since we halftime turned this into a baseball podcast, I think it's probably good to acknowledge that. But we're coming up there, and I couldn't be more excited. Kevin, would you like to go next?
I would be happy to go next. So, speaking of baseball, a few months ago, I spoke about all the terrible parents and coaches of my 7-year-old son's baseball league who just were fixated on winning and fixated on the performance of their kids and being successful, and how terrible it was. Well, recently, so my son has signed up, or he didn't sign up, his parents signed him up for the next year of like the more serious, the spring baseball, which is apparently much more serious, much more elite, this, that, and the other of West Boca baseball. And one of my son's school chums, a kid in his class, is named Kimmel. Kimmel is very good at baseball. Jad played against him in the last season, in that season of baseball, and this kid has a swing like a major leaguer. Like, it's amazing. He's half the size of Jad, and he swings like Barry Bonds. And his parents, very supportive of their child, have, we've met them. They're very, very sweet people. But I was kind of under the impression that like they might be like pushing their son a little bit too hard because he's really, really good. I mean, like I said, his swing is incredible for his age. And I actually had a chance to meet and talk to Kimmel's father recently. And his father is actually a former minor league catcher in the Baltimore Orioles organization. He played AAA ball. I don't think he ever made it to the major leagues, but he knows a lot of major league players. And he brings his son to like this local area, this little look, it's not like a camp, but a facility to like train him on a regular basis. And when I heard about that first, I thought like, oh, he's going to be one of these guys that's like is so obsessed with his son's performance, and that's why he's so good, because they're there every single day, and all he cares about is whether his son is good at baseball or not. And I prejudged him. I prejudged him for that. And after sitting down and talking with him at my son's birthday party, I realized he's not like that at all. He said, "You got to let kids be kids. If they don't want to play baseball, we don't make them play baseball." He was sweet and kind and supportive, and his son just has gifts and that he's supporting and doing his best to be a good father. And that was really shitty of me to prejudge him just because his kid was so far advanced of other kids that are his age. He just has some natural gifts that his father's trying to support, with a really, really great perspective of what that should mean for him going forward. And for me, it was a good lesson to not just make blanket statements about people that I don't really know their intentions. And yes, there's a bunch of asshole parents that take this way too seriously. But just because, a kid's in one, tier or another tier doesn't mean we should do that with everybody. And in general, we should be more forgiving, more thoughtful, and more inquisitive about people than just thinking the worst of them at first blush. So I'm sorry to Kimmel's dad. And it turns out he's a really, really great guy. And I thought that was great to find that out.
Here. Always good to learn a life lesson, I think. I'm glad that finally learned the "don't judge a book by its cover" thing. You've probably heard for 40 years. But
I'm only 43. I finally figured that out. And by the way, I haven't figured it out because I'll have another one of these a few weeks from now with the same basic concept. Tim, what do you have to say?
yeah. So I, it's been a weird couple of weeks for me. What I guess what I want to say, and this is definitely weird, they don't listen because they're not like Kevin's dad. They they don't want to hear what I have to say, but I really just want to give a shout out to my parents. Um, I struggle with depression and anxiety and other mental illness, and I have things going on in my personal life, and they know when to draw a line, and they know when to support me. But it's funny that at 45, I still call my mommy when I have a bad day, right? I still text message my dad about what's going on, and my dad was like my best man in my wedding. Uh, and he and I used to do father son trips all the time, and I'm still trying to get him up here to do like a camping trip. But uh, it is nice to have that support that is um, unwavering. But I guess the bigger lesson for me is that I get to, as a dad myself, right? You guys are both dads. Um, you know, continue to learn what it means to be a good parent. Sometimes you learn through bad experience where maybe you didn't have a good parent, or sometimes you learn through positive experience. And my parents, I learned some things of what to do and what things not to do. But it is really just encouraging for me to know that as a divorced, single dad, that I have this constant reminder of what the role of a parent is, and it's been just something that kind of got highlighted here recently. That uh, both moms and dads, and or moms or dads, however you define a family, that it shapes a lot more of what you are than I think anyone necessarily understands. And so, yeah, shout out mom and dad. I love you guys, and I'm very good.
I know we're not supposed to comment, but I still will because who the fuck cares? That's very sweet and amazing to hear. And by the way, another thing that you and I have in common, my dad was the best man at my wedding.
Oh, really? That's pretty
Yeah.
awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I grew up with two sisters, and so and they're older, and so it just always felt like it was like me and dad being outnumbered by estrogen in the household. And so even though I had a ton of really great friends, the only guy that really wanted to, like, I really wanted to be, this is the guy that, if you're gonna say best man, this is the best man in my life.
Yeah. And I stood up at my dad's wedding with his second wife, Kathy. So it's a pretty special thing for me that I was able to have that. And by the way, Mike was there, and one of my only friends that I actually invited to the ceremony, because there's not a lot of people I care about in the world because I'm a misanthrope and I'm a bad person. But I had Mike there at the wedding, one of like 15, 20 people that were there, and my dad stood up. So that's another thing we have in common.
That's awesome. I also love that you went with the word misanthrope. I used the word pedantic last night at a work dinner, and no one knew what that word meant, and I felt like, am I just that big of a dork, or
Yes.
Is misanthrope that big of a word? I feel like I've been using it for a while, but
I am willing to bet that while they're who wrote that? Was that Sart?
I don't
Um
know what.
Don't get high-minded with me talking about Sartre. Was that Socrates?
I literally corrected the pronunciation of someone's like how they were pronouncing Olathe, Kansas with just Olathe. And I got shit to no end that I pointed that out. And I was like, I know, but like anyway. Okay, so Mike.
I just want to say one quick thing, because Kevin retorted, to quote a animated little blue cat that my kids really love, rock on mom and dad.
Is that Bluey?
Pete the cat.
Pete the cat. Pete the cat, brother. One of the greatest shows of all time. If I get Jad to watch it again, I'd be a happy man.
I was gonna say Eek the cat, which I very much enjoyed. Right.
That's about 30 years old. I don't know if Jad can get into that.
I forgot all about that show.
Guys, we made Perfect Strangers references in this episode. I think we can make an Eek the cat.
Oh no, it was a good reference. I just think that Perfect Strangers was a little more culturally relevant because it was giant. And the second you said that, I was just thinking, standing tall on the wings of my dreams. And I was just going through all the lyrics thinking, how can I tie Mike into this? And then it didn't work out and it went very long.
The guy that wrote that theme song also wrote the Family Matters theme song. I think he wrote the Step by Step. He wrote the Full House theme song.
So quick. I'm going to try to make this quick. Story as we used to have a sales rep for us at the first brewery, who's a very animated character. His name's Brian, and we went one time and did trivia as a like team building thing at the Brass Tap in Boynton Beach, and they had a round where it was he played clips of TV theme songs, and you had to write down your answer, and then you turn them all in at the end of the round. Well, Perfect Strangers came on as one of them, and he stood up on his chair, put one foot up onto the table, and started just singing the entire song out into the bar. And I'm laughing my ass off. There are people who are horrified at this person who cannot sing very well at all.
The wind and rain, we're bound for better days. It's my life,
my dreams. Nothing can stop me now.
And they were only supposed to be playing like 10-second clips of this, but the host just decided to just let it go and just let him do the whole thing. And yeah, that just reminded me of that wonderful moment.
In the early 2000s, I went on an Alaskan cruise, and I don't know if you gentlemen understand who's on an Alaskan cruise, but I was like one of like 4 people of my 20s on that entire ship.
I've never been on a cruise.
Okay, neither. Well, cruises like down south have young people, but Alaskan cruises only have old people. And I became sort of a celebrity on the ship. I had done like Elvis at karaoke and won over people. And then I went and I did Name That Tune trivia on the boat, but it was all TV theme songs. And it was it was things like my early era, before my era, like Taxi and Dallas and MASH. It was also even stuff like
Brandon.
It was also like Get Smart and stuff like that. And I won the Name That Tune trivia. And so all of these old people who knew all of these shows, and I'm like I only know them from syndication. They're like, coming over
But you-
and like giving me shit. But yeah.
But you were faster. That's the thing. You have reflexes because you're young, so you can like hit the button or whatever happens. And no, I mean, because I'm the same way. I grew up on like TV Land and Get Smart and all those. Everything you named, I could perform those theme songs. You don't want to hear them, but I could do it.
Oh yeah, no. If I could hear you do "Suicide Is Painless," that'd be great. No, it was so funny too because at one point we're all sitting there when I'm with like my in-laws and everything, and the cruise director. I don't know what a cruise director does, right? But he's
directs
he-
the cruise.
God damn it, Mike.
I hate you both.
Which cruise?
so,
The ship
like-
or the people who work on there?
Yeah.
Mm.
So he's
Think about
Yes.
that.
he just happens to be walking by the whatever nightclub bar whatever we're in there, and he walks by the door and he catches me and he comes back in and he walks in and he comes over and he introduces himself to me and then just walks away. I'm with other people and he does it and they're like, "What the hell, Tim? How did you what was that about? Do you know him?" I'm like, No, I just outsmarted old people at TV trivia, basically. Also,
this is another good meme. Tim, I outsmarted old people. We have a picture of him. We have a little bubble coming out. There's 2 good memes that came out of this show that should just become part of our lexicon.
Fuck, that reminds me. I wanted to jump in, but I hadn't been introduced yet. Earlier is when you talked about Tim memes shouting at hazy beers. I was just imagining the meme of Trump yelling at the kid mowing the lawn, and like that just replaced the kid mowing the lawn with hazy beer cans and put Tim's face on Trump there, and then there's that meme for you.
I would never put Tim's face on Trump. I respect him too much. I don't
That is
like
true.
him. I don't like him, but I respect him too much.
So does anyone have anything that they want to plug?
Oh, Mike coming in strong at the very end as the
I was
host.
gonna say Mike is now a newly minted host of United You Drink. Do you want to go ahead and close out the show?
You can follow me at Mike Loves Beer on Blue Sky and Instagram.
That sounded. You almost made that sound sensual. That was nice.
You did. I'm
Yes.
aroused
This
slightly.
is United We Drink After Dark.
Dark. Kevin?
Oh yeah, go ahead. That was perfect timing.
I mean, I know there's very few people that are listening to us that are, in South Florida that
It's
can
our
come
number
by.
one market.
Okay. Well, by very few, I mean there's 7 of them. But if you are down here
There you
in
go.
South Florida,
Show some respect.
the 7 of you, who I respect a great deal, our anniversary party is coming up in March. I don't know the date because why would I know that? But it's our 10th year anniversary. Go to our website, and we've been around for 10 years. That's a pretty big deal. I'm proud of that. I mean, we're just kind of holding on and dealing with this industry as it comes. But other people have come and went, and we're still here. I think doing some pretty goddamn good beers. We have a really cool beer that's going to come out as our anniversary beer. It's a barrel-aged double. And we'll have some other specialty beers there for the 10-year anniversary party. But I'm happy that we've made it this long, and I really appreciate all the work that the people have done. Everybody that works there now and who has worked in the past to make this brewery a thing that survived for this long to be able to have our 10-year anniversary party. So if you're in the area and you can check it out, we'd love to see you.
I like how you said that one thing that I now can't remember as a I'm Ron Burgundy. Because everything is a question nowadays.
Yeah. Well,
I'm okay.
Tim?
Yeah. So I was gonna say good friend, but mostly he's a sworn enemy of mine. Kevin.
Those are
Abbott-
very easily confused things.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Kevin Abbott owns a brewery in South Florida called Barrel of Monks, and they're having their 10th anniversary party. They're gonna have like a barrel aged double. They're gonna have some amazing things, and I would really appreciate you guys. I know Mike's run the statistics of who listens to our podcast, and Eric Hill, you have to be listening a lot more. You have to bump up Minnesota. But a lot of our listeners are in the South Florida area, and if you would do me the great honor of go visiting Kevin and his team, absolutely a great crew there at Barrel of Monks in 10 years is a pretty amazing milestone. So please go down and check out what they've got going on. I know Kevin's too humble to talk about it, but 10 years is huge. So please go celebrate with them.
I don't know if I'm touched by the plug or put off by the sworn enemies comment. I mean, I don't know what I've done, what the transgression that has happened. But you know what? You're the bigger man. No, but you're the bigger man. Where we may be sworn enemies, but you've come out on the other side and said a very sweet thing. So thank you very much, Tim.
No, seriously, Kevin, congratulations on 10 years. I think that absolutely deserves an applause. I think what you guys have done there is pretty amazing, and it's been a while since anyone has shipped me beer. What you guys have done there is I think nothing short of amazing, frankly, and I'm proud of you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
By the way, Minnesota, you're our 6th best market in the United States. But I'm gonna put this out there. You're only 4 listens from number 2. That's how close it is.
Come on, Eric.
Have a long way to go to Florida. But
yeah.
You know, there was a band that put out, and this may be apocryphal. They put out an album that was completely silent, and they told their fans to put it on Apple Music and listen to it overnight when they went to sleep, so that they would make, the 1 penny off of every song that was played or whatever. Like, that should be our kind of thing. So Eric, just put this on all the time. Turn your headphones down. Don't listen to it, but play it
you need some AMSR or whatever,
over and over again to get Minnesota up there.
Every device. Mike, we can't hear that. Did you mute yourself before you did that?
No, that's the ASMR. It's like people get off on like sounds of shit and stuff.
I didn't hear what sound you were trying to make.
Oh, really?
It was probably too loud or something, and it kind of like automatically filtered it out.
Okay, sorry. Or you're welcome.
Both at the same time. Hey, Mike, I just want to thank you very much for being a guest on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I don't have shit to do on Wednesdays except put my kids down.
Yeah. And your story is very interesting, and I'd like to know more about your life. Maybe we can get together as like things in the world and discuss this.
Are you guys inviting me to be a co-host? I think you've already said this before. Is this official? And then I'm now an unpaid employee? No, I'm dead. Okay.
Tim, say no. Tim, say no.
No, well, I mean, I might consider an internship. Maybe, maybe we could figure out.
I work very hard. Wait, no. I don't work very hard. That is the correct thing. I will take a lot of smoke breaks, and I don't smoke. I've
considered starting to smoke just to take breaks.
We had. Oh God, no. Oh, that's for another time.
I thought you were going to say a limerick, like there once was a man from Nantucket. I thought that's where you were going. Sorry.
Nice.
Go ahead. Worked in a brewery and said, "Fuck it."
Well, Tim, why don't you close this bad boy out?
Yes.
Play us out, keyboard cat.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. Again, thank you, dear listener, Kevin's dad, for listening to United We Drink, a podcast about libations and the sorts. Once again, I am Tim Johnson with Kevin Abbott and Mike Jurewicz. You can go ahead and make sure you're sharing with your friends where to find our podcast. It's a little ridiculous. We tell you where to find it. If you're already listening to it, you've obviously found it. So you don't need to know that you can go to Amazon, Apple Music, Spotify, Stitcher that no longer exists for your mom's mixtape. But go ahead and check us out.
Alibaba.
Yeah. Please go to unitedwedrink.com. Please go ahead and continue to support your local brewery. And with that, dear listeners, we will be back in a couple of weeks with another episode, which will be, I promise you, much better than this one. So, cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.